Hello friends, my name's Emile and welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 3. Today we're continuing on with our Let's Play. This is episode 2, and in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at the domestic A licenses. We looked at the B licenses last time, now it's time to move on to the slightly more difficult domestic A licenses. Yeah, these ones are kind of like the B licenses. These are relatively straightforward. Some of them are a little bit more on the trickier side, but, you know, overall they're nothing particularly ridiculously challenging. Anyways, first test involves this NSX at the Grand Valley Speedway. Not a particular favourite track of mine. I will say, one good thing about Gran Turismo 3, in the last video I said, wasn't my particular favourite of the Gran Turismo games, not one that I played a lot of and so on. But I will say, GT3 does have a pretty solid track list. It includes a lot of our favourites from previous games. It includes some more, new real-world circuits. I believe the Rome course is in this game. Yeah, the Rome course from GT2 is in this game. Unfortunately, that was cut from GT4. Yeah, the Monaco track, I believe, is in this game as well, so that's kind of cool. Complex String, which unfortunately don't really race on, you only do a time trial and a couple of licenses on, but I actually really like the Complex String. Probably one of my more favourite longer tracks in games, actually, which you don't hear me say often. Of course, we've got Laguna Seca here, which has been in pretty much every single Gran Turismo game since GT2. So that's cool. I've always liked the Laguna, actually. Driving the R34 around here. Bit of a tricky car to drive, actually, the R34 was, surprisingly enough. I should mention at this point, I am running traction control, and I believe it's ACS off. I'm also running a manual gearbox, because this is Gran Turismo. You sort of need a manual, because the game doesn't do particularly well. One thing I do actually, it sounds really strange, one thing I actually really do like about these, sort of, when Gran Turismo got newer over GT2, I like the, sort of, the odometer that you get with the cars, so you can see how many miles you've done in them and so on. I've always really liked that. It sort of makes the car feel a little bit more special. I will say you've noticed I'm running on HUD view. I may run the third-person cameras at points. I don't particularly like third-person cameras in Gran Turismo games, as the game sort of has a bit of a stutter there. I'm not sure if that was my editing program or if that was just the game having a stutter. Not sure. I guess we'll find out when we get onto the actual thing. Anyways, these tests are pretty fun. Basically involves an RX-7 going around in a circle, and you do this in a Corvette later on in the wet as well. They're pretty interesting, kind of remind me, I think GT2 had something similar with Nissan Micra. I will say GT2 had some more varied license tests, even GT4 did, although Gran Turismo 4 has a ridiculous amount of them. There's 16 tests and 1 coffee break per category, so when we finally get to Gran Turismo 4, which is what I was originally going to do, before GT3, but I need to find a new PlayStation to play GT4 on, because my PlayStation doesn't like Gran Turismo 4. It's been an issue it's had the entire time. I think it's a specific model code that doesn't like it, so I probably need to go ahead and find myself a new PlayStation 2 at some point. So that's why we're sort of doing GT3. In case you're wondering if parts-wise, GT3 will be a long game. Longer than Forza Motorsport 2, although I'm not sure time-wise whether it will be. There's some very long races in this game, granted, but Forza 2 sort of had 50-minute races all the time. This game, I don't think it's quite that bad. Actually, thinking about it, the professional series might be. I'm not sure. Either way, we've got rally racing and stuff to keep us occupied in this game. Unfortunately, the car list isn't quite as good as the track list in this game. The car list is a little bit lacking. Again, this was the first foray into PlayStation 2. There's a lot of Japanese cars, as you'd expect from a Gran Turismo game, but there really isn't that much from other countries, really. The DB7 Coupe is in the game, which is happy for me. Of course, the Scudo as well. There's some very cool cars, as you'd expect, but yeah. There's also, there's just not a huge amount of variety in the car list, but, you know, I think there's 180 cars in the game. If this is 120 episodes, I'm sure I can find at least one thing different for most of the episodes, for the most part. But yeah, again, still haven't decided on a first car, still haven't decided on really much. I'm probably going to take this similar way to I did to Gran Turismo 1. For those of you who didn't watch my GT1 playthrough live streamed, what I did is, because I'd never really played Gran Turismo 1 before, I sort of relied on my chat, and I also was just basically experimenting with stuff. So I'd buy one car from the used dealership. If it didn't quite work out, then I would simply, you know, not save the game, go back and buy another car. So I'll probably do a similar-ish thing for GT3. Of course, GT3 is a lot longer. But at the same time, I have quite a bit more experience with Gran Turismo 3 than I do with GT1, because I'd never played GT1 before I did my Let's Play on it, or at least I had played it a little bit, but I emphasise a little bit, like I really haven't played a lot of it. Whereas GT3, I have played a fair amount of this game. You know, I say I haven't played as much of it as Gran Turismo 4, and that's true, but, you know, I still must have at least 100 hours logged in Gran Turismo 3. I can't really remember what I did with this game half the time. It was mostly just listening to that awesome car dealership music, I reckon, because the car dealership has fantastic, fantastic music in this game. I do recommend giving the GT3 soundtrack a listen, and for the first time ever, the PAL version soundtrack of this game is actually better than the North American version. In most cases. Anyways, as you can see, Domestic A license has been acquired. So that's another license blocked down. 2 or 6, we are getting there. Again, no prize car for this because, well, I wasn't aiming for golds or anything. We'll just quickly have a look at the statistics and end it off here. Thank you all very much for watching, friends. This is the second part of the licenses done with. Join me next time when we'll be taking a look at the International B licenses. Until next time, friends, thank you all very much for watching, and farewell.